Joining me this morning from Baghdad, the commander of U.S. forces in Iraq, General Ray Odierno. General Odierno, thank you very much for joining us on This Week. And I want to start by asking you about the handover. You've just handed over all combat operations to Iraqi forces. Are they really ready to stand up once you draw down by the end of this month?
Well, this is something that we've been working for a very long time with the Iraqi security forces. For the last 20 months, we've been slowly and deliberately turning over more and more responsibility to them. And they have stepped up. They continue to do broad-scoped operations across all of Iraq. We continue to help them as they do these, and that will continue after 1 September, our assistance. But we do believe they are ready to assume full operations in Iraq.
Well, let me ask you about the violence. This weekend alone in Basra in the south, there's been a big explosion that's caused dozens of deaths. What is it? Do you know what it is, in fact? Was it a terrorist attack?
Well, I think it probably was. We're still sorting through that because there was conflicting reports. But my guess, it was probably some sort of an improvised explosive device that went off. I would just say this is a reflection. We have ups and downs here. As I step back, having been here since the dark days of 2006 and 7 to where we are today, what I see is a broad change in the security environment here in Iraq. However, there are still groups out there who are conducting terrorist acts against the people of Iraq. And they're doing this to stop the political way forward, to stop the political process moving forward, to stop democracy moving forward, and to cause the government of Iraq not to continue its progress. And that's what we're seeing that's playing out on the ground now.
Well, General Odierno, in fact, it seems that the political parties in Iraq are not moving forward with the democracy as you describe it. 5 months or more after the election, there's still no government. How much does that worry you, and what kind of vacuum is that creating there?
Well, again, first off, we've seen that during this time, this governmental formation time frame, the Iraqi security forces have acted neutral. They've continued to conduct operations across the broad spectrum of operations that are necessary. And in fact, I have found them to be very professional in continuing to execute the security profile. So we've seen no degradation in their ability to execute the security profile. And I think that's actually an extremely positive step forward for them, that they've continued to operate even though we're during this time of governmental formation.
So how concerned are you, and at what point will you be concerned if there is no government? And do you think that that is providing space for insurgents to reorganize, as many suggest?
Well, I would just tell you is, what we can't do is overreact to incidents. There are going to be incidents that occur here. There's a level of violence and a level of terrorism here that's going to occur. But I would tell you over the last 6 to 7 months, the success that we've had against al-Qaeda in Iraq specifically in decapitating their leadership has in fact affected them. The kind of operations that they now conduct are very different than what they did just 6 months ago, 8 months ago. And the kind of their ability to surge and do this over a sustained period of time is limited. And that's due to a lot of the work of the Iraqi security forces working with us to conduct these operations. So I think they can handle it. I think the bottom line is, for us here now, it's not about the number of people on the ground. It's really about how we continue to sustain stability, and you have to do that through continued development economically, continued development diplomatically and politically, as well as the continued improvement of the security forces. And I think we have a plan to do that beyond 1 September.
So let me ask you about the diplomatic engagement, as you say. Do you think that the effort on military drawdown and the engagement that you have had with the Iraqis on the military drawdown may have not been matched by the effort on the diplomatic and political front?
Well, I think, again, they come at different times. I think what we now have is, it's not only about our commitment, it's about the Iraqis now having the capability to move forward. And what we've seen over the last 2 years, that their governmental entities have improved significantly, and they are starting to move forward economically. For example, they've signed a whole bunch of oil contracts now that are just beginning to be executed across Iraq. So we're starting to see this economic progress. The political progress is slow because of the delay in the formation of the government. But I would say that's because we had legitimate and credible elections. The results were very close. And so now it's made it very difficult to form the government. But all the sides are talking. They are working through the formation of the government. And so I think they understand the importance of getting a government formed so they can continue to get assistance from the United States in developing their capacity across the economic and diplomatic spectrum.
Do you think, General, that the government will be formed by September 1st when you are meant to be withdrawing to a 50,000 force?
Again, I would say the numbers and our numbers of withdrawing is not linked to the governmental formation process. Do I think they'll have made progress by the 1st of September? I think so. I think we'll see some first steps towards forming the government by 1 September. But our numbers are not linked to that formation of the government. Our numbers are linked to the capacity that the Iraqi security forces being able to sustain stability. And I think they are moving towards that capacity. And I remind everybody that we'll have 50,000 troops on the ground post 1 September, and that's still a very significant presence to continue to assist the Iraqi security forces as we move forward.
What are you noticing in terms of interference potentially from other funded groups, from the neighbors? Do you notice, or are you alarmed that there may be any kind of other countries trying to take advantage of what is a bit of a political vacuum right now?
Well, Iraq, as you well know, Christiane, Iraq is a strategically important place in the Middle East, where just by its geographic location, by its population, by the influence it's had in the Middle East for a long time. So neighboring countries from around the Middle East have an interest inside of Iraq. But I will tell you that I think Iraqis themselves are nationalistic in nature. And that's why it's important. A strong Iraq will defend itself against interference from outside countries. And I think as we build a strong Iraq, and as we continue to build a strong security mechanism, and as we continue to help them economically and diplomatically, that will make it less likely of others from the outside being able to interfere. Now, for the vacuum as we see today, again, I remind everyone is that we still have a significant presence here. And we will not allow undue malign influence on the Iraqi government as they attempt to form their government. What we're trying to do is provide them the space and time for them to do that. And we will continue to do that post 1 September. We'll still have a significant civilian presence, and again, we'll still have 50,000 troops on the ground here to ensure that this government can be formed by the Iraqis and that all the other nations respect their sovereignty as they go about forming their government.
What gives you the most concern right now? You're obviously speaking with great confidence about the Iraqi forces that you've been able to stand up. I think it's somewhere over 125,000 Iraqi forces since the surge. What gives you the most concern at the moment as you approach that August 31st date?
I think I would just say it's not the security profile. Obviously, I believe there'll be people who attempt to take advantage of the opportunity of the attention being brought upon the August 31st date. And so there'll be groups who try to take advantage of that and show weakness in the government of Iraq and try to create some sort of lack of confidence of the people in the process as we move forward. So that's probably my first concern. But I believe we can overcome that concern. The second is that the Iraqis have to understand the importance of forming the government, doing it as quickly as possible, and getting themselves ready to leap forward so they can make progress on the economic front and the diplomatic front. And they got to set themselves up for that. So it's important for the Iraqis to understand the importance of moving forward quickly. And I think we're starting to see that as we see negotiations pick up over the last couple weeks.
Okay, and final question. Do you think U.S. diplomats have done enough to push the political parties together?
I think it's a very fine line here, Christiane. What we want is we want to have the Iraqis form their own government. What we try to do here is facilitate that process. And I think that we behind the scenes have tried to facilitate the process without being directive in who should do what. Mm-hmm. And I think we've done a pretty fair job of that. And I think as time goes on, we'll try to facilitate it a bit harder to get them to move forward a bit quicker.
Thank you very much, General Odierno. Thanks for joining us.